And there was this thing that I did back when I was in Brentford TV where I would talk to the editors in the A-roll footage. Put a graph here. You could put the supporting graphics here. But now it's just me. And I would be talking to myself. But this is the cold open, editor. But before we continue with the video, let's keep the lights on here in the studio. This video is brought to you by Sneak Attack Design Lab. They're a clothing company that specializes in technical fashion, more commonly known as techwear, and you can see me in their clothes in most of my videos. I've been supporting their brand ever since I met them back in 2019, and now they're returning the favor. Head on over to this link, you can find it in the description as well, to get 10% off your order from their site. Check their clothes out, you're bound to see something badass over there that'll look great on you. Thank you very much to Sneak Attack for this exclusive promo for my viewers. Now, back to the video. As a tech reviewer, it's very dangerous for me to develop favorites, apart from the obvious fact that having a bias towards a particular line of products would skew my perception of it, therefore misleading my audience into purchases that might not fully make them happy. But it can also mess with my reasoning when writing these reviews. See, when I review something, I ask practical, real-life questions because I want the product to give me real-life practical answers. I don't believe in black and white reviews saying that this one particular product is entirely bad and this one particular product is entirely good. It's all shades of gray. Questions like, who was this designed for? And what's the best use case for this thing? And in the case of the ROG Zephyrus G16 2024, why did they even change these things? Or are these upgrades or trade-offs? Well, this laptop, which is formerly known as the G15, now the Zephyrus G16 2024, is unequivocally my favorite laptop line ever. And I promise you, my viewer, that its favorite status with me won't skew this review in any way. We're still going to be asking the hard questions, and it's up to this laptop to give its answers. I'm Kevin Evangelista, welcome to the channel, and this is my review of the ROG Zephyrus G16 2024. As with all of my reviews, we start at the outside. The ROG Zephyrus G16 2024 sheds its progenitor's gamery, mixed metal and plastic chassis for a full set of sleek, premium machined aluminum armor. Although it has to be said that it won't be dodging any of the usual accusations that entail a minimalistic visual makeover like this. It really does look like a MacBook with a bigger HP bar, or even an albino razor blade. But then, on the other hand, it's already a long-established gripe of laptop owners that their ROG laptops look too gamery. ROG gave us exactly what we asked for, with a little extra even. Taking the place of the old anime LED matrix is this, the ROG Slashlight. It's a customizable precision-milled strip of stainless steel with 68 capsule cells and 28 mini LEDs on the top cover, and you can put animations on it and such. Following the trend of the rest of the design, it's a minimalist take on the anime LED matrix. But yeah, for other considerations, the Zephyrus G16 passes with flying colors. It's a large but thin laptop coming in at 13.94 inches wide, 9.69 inches deep, and just 0.65 inches at its thickest point. It's reasonably weighted too, coming in at just 4.3 pounds without the power adapter. The screen barely flexes even though there is a bit of a wobble. The deck is solid as it can be, and there are no sharp edges to catch your skin on. Overall, the build is premium, the design is sleek and minimal, and I'm all for it. There is nothing about the build quality of the Zephyrus G16 that will let you down. Moving on over to the keyboard and trackpad, only one of these has been critically upgraded. Keyboard first, it's just a straight-up transplant from previous Zephyrus models, which is okay, I guess. It feels like the same keyboard as my daily driver Zephyrus Duo. And it sure as hell isn't the godlike keyboard of the Strix G15 from 2022. It's just good, nothing noteworthy, apart from being the keyboard of a 16-inch laptop but still missing the number pad. Oh, it's also RGB, but it's not per key RGB, which can be a bummer for some of you, but I personally don't really mind. I just set it to white and called it a day. But moving on down to the trackpad, we see the upgrades in action here alright. It's now of the trendy huge trackpad that Windows gaming laptop manufacturers are putting in all of their laptops, and it's a very welcome upgrade. Using it feels smooth and responsive, and it's even multi-touch. But I would have liked to see this touchpad as a number pad, Asus. Please, next generation turn this into a number pad because I don't have the numpad area here. It's a big laptop, it should have one. Alright, heading on over to what I feel is a strong point with the Zephyrus G16. At the right side, it's got a UHS 2 full-size SD card reader. You know I absolutely love to see that. A USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type A port and a USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type C port that supports power delivery up to 100 watts and DisplayPort with G-Sync out. Then at the left side, we get the proprietary Asus power connector, an HDMI 2.1 FRL out, a Thunderbolt 4 that supports power delivery up to 100 watts and DisplayPort out, another USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type A, and a 3.5mm combo audio jack. This is fantastic. They shaved off a lot of weight and a lot of thickness from the laptop, but connectivity not only virtually stayed the same, but even upgraded. I love seeing that full-size SD card reader on there, and the long-requested Thunderbolt 4 has finally arrived. I can't be happier about the port selection on it. I mean, I do kind of miss the RJ45 LAN port, but I understand that the Zephyrus G16 2024 is literally too thin to have one. It's alright. Since shedding its gamerific aesthetics was at the forefront of consideration with how the Zephyrus G16 looked, it's only fair that the aggressive, sharp vents of the past generation are dropped for these new, very industrial-looking array. They look like they've been ripped straight out of a ProArt laptop, but game has to recognize game. They do the job and they do it well. The only remaining reminder of what the ROG Zephyrus G16 used to look like is here at the back, where the exhaust vents retain kind of the angled look of Zephyrus models past. But then again, you only see those when the lid is closed. When they're open, they're kind of blocked by the screen assembly. Before we move on over to the display, let's talk about this webcam. This is a 1080p camera that has an IR module, meaning it supports depth effects and Windows Hello facial recognition. And what can I say? It's a pretty good camera. It can actually capture me very clearly even though I'm kind of like bathed in studio lights here, which you would think is not a challenging environment, but I've seen a lot of laptops kind of like blow out subjects when flooded with light. Like I always say, it's good for calls and meetings and even basic content creation. Plus, the mic sounds like this. It's not anything special, but you do still get the AI noise cancelling features that come with Armoury Crate. One thing I would have liked to see would be a privacy shutter for, security and privacy. Alright, time to party. This is the main event of this laptop. The one that's always been in ROG's marketing materials since reveal day. The ROG Zephyrus G16 2024 is the first laptop in their lineup to have this version of the ROG Nebula display, which is a 16-inch, 2560 by 1600 resolution, 16:10 aspect ratio OLED display that runs at a 240Hz refresh rate with a response time of 0.2 milliseconds and a max brightness of 500 nits. It covers 100% of the DCI-P3 gamut, is Pandown validated, and it's even got G-Sync and Dolby Vision HDR support. Yes, this is an honest-to-goodness 16-inch 240Hz OLED on a laptop. I used to only dream of the day when this kind of tech reached the laptop space, not aware that it would just be less than half a decade before it arrived. It's a feast for the eyes, it's an absolute treat to play on, and it's a joy to experience on a daily basis. Everything I've done on the laptop, whether it be gaming, watching media, editing content, even writing the script for this video, it's been done through the semi-literal lens of this display. Apart from wishing that it was able to push brightness past that 500 nits, which I understand is kind of hard when it's running at 240Hz refresh rate, I've got nothing bad to say about this display. It's crisp, it's responsive, it's vibrant, it's beautiful. If the display is the only thing that you care about in your next laptop, you might as well skip this entire review now and just go straight down in the description and buy one from the link there. It's just that good. But if you're still here and you haven't gone off to buy a Zephyrus G16 for yourself, let me turn you onto something that's equally as good. The speakers. If you would remember, in my unboxing video, I recall how the ROG people talked up the speakers on the ROG Zephyrus G16 to me up until the day I got them. Being a recovered audiophile that I am, I was very doubtful going to that experience. But yeah, these speakers, these are the ones, chief. These will blow you away like that old 90s ad. The laptop is packing a grand total of 6 speakers inside, with 2 of those being side woofers. And when I tell you it's good, it's really damn good. Just to paint you an auditory picture here, I'm going to compare it against a set of desktop speakers, my JBL Quantum Duo, and a set of normal sounding laptop speakers on the Asus VivoBook S16. Here they are. Did you hear that? This is the best sounding laptop I have ever heard so far in my life. Mainly because it doesn't sound like a laptop. It's closer to a medium-sized Bluetooth speaker. It can even run against my desktop speakers. And man, it can throw that sound really wide. 3D audio in games is a treat, it can properly fill a room with music, and it functions as a conference machine when I'm at the office because of how well the speakers resolve speech. These speakers, paired with this amazing OLED screen, makes the Zephyrus G16 2024 one of the best laptops for media viewing. And it just so happens to also have the ability to game at max settings. Amazing job, ROG. Alright, time for some specs. The ROG Zephyrus G16 2024 is running the Intel Core Ultra 9 185H processor, which has 16 cores, 6 of those being performance cores, 8 efficiency cores, and 2 LPE cores, resulting in 22 threads. It runs at 2.3 GHz on normal usage, but it can boost up to a staggering 5.1 GHz when put on full load. It's got 32 gigs of LPDDR5X RAM running at 7467 MHz. Keep this in mind as we're going to be talking about this in a minute. Then it has the blazing fast NVIDIA RTX 4080 laptop GPU with 12 gigs of GDDR6 VRAM and 2 TB of NVMe PCIe 4.0 M.2 storage. These are crazy specs for a laptop this thin and light. It absolutely kicks my way thicker and way hotter ROG Zephyrus Duo 16 even at a lower power usage. Opening up the laptop, we can see its 90 Wh battery, a huge vapor chamber assembly to effectively wick the heat away from the Core Ultra 9 and 4080 to these fin arrays, cooled by these 2 arc flow fans. We can also see here that the 2 TB of storage is in a single stick, as there is another empty M.2 PCIe 4.0 slot here at the left. Now, one thing notably missing here is the lack of any upgradable memory. Yeah, going back to that 32 gigs of LPDDR5X RAM running at 7467 MHz, all of that is soldered in to get you faster speeds. Now, I'm not sure if I totally agree with this decision, since RAM is something I normally upgrade in my systems and I would always want to have 64 gigs or more, especially when I'm editing, but I do understand the limitations of this generation of RAM technology and how ROG can only run it at that speed by effectively baking it into the mainboard. It's a wonky trade-off for me at best. Because if you get this laptop, you're definitely going to be able to squeeze 5 years or maybe even more out of it. But unlike other machines that you can upgrade both memory and storage, you're going to have a hard stop at 32 gigs. Once you get to a point that you need to run programs that require more, you've got no other choice than to get another laptop. And if that happens within those 5 years, well, maybe you're gonna get a sour deal out of this laptop. Just a reminder, I, myself, regularly hit 30 gigs of RAM usage when I'm editing in Premiere Pro and After Effects. That's not even considering that your workload may be heavier than mine. But enough about that, it's time for some numbers on the screen. Please note that all of the testing I did for the Zephyrus G16 2024 was done with the power setting on turbo, and it's connected to its big brick 240-watt charger. I didn't bother redoing all the benchmarks on the 100-watt USB-C PD charger since it's not a good representation of the full performance capabilities of the laptop. Anyways, let's start with synthetics. Of course, we're going to start out with the tried and true Cinebenched R23. The ROG Zephyrus G16 2024's Core Ultra 9 185H scored an impressive 14,928 points in multi-core and an equally strong core of 1,830 points in single-core. This doesn't come as a surprise to us since we already know that the new Core Ultra 9 is a proper beast and should be the ones that we're going to be looking out for in mobility devices moving forward. Save for the new AMD version of this, I'm kind of recording this as the launch is happening, so yeah, that might be a better deal. But anyways, back to the video. Moving on over to the 3D Mark benchmark family, we see continuously impressive numbers from the G16 2024, coming in with 3,379 points in Steel Nomad and 6,732 average score in Time Spy Extreme. It's pulled off numbers that are usually reserved for thicker, heavier laptops. And lastly, a new addition to my reviews, the Geekbench AI score. This will determine how effective the device's CPU, GPU, and NPU are at processing AI-related workloads. As usual, a higher number means better performance. The G16 2024 was able to score 2,754 points in single precision, 691 points in half precision, and 3,470 points in quantized. These numbers may make very little sense now, but as my reviews move forward and we get to test a lot more AI-capable devices, we're going to be able to tally all these up to get a clearer picture of what defines great AI performance on laptops. But anyway, let's head on over to the fun part: gaming performance. No more dilly-dallying around, here's the numbers for gaming performance. Do note that all of these games were ran at maximum settings with no DLSS at its native 2560 by 1600 resolution. So while some of these numbers will be relatively low compared to its 240Hz refresh rate, do remember that these settings can be turned down and DLSS can be turned on to get you closer to your desired performance target. These benchmarks are here to show you what's the absolute max performance you can squeeze out of the laptop without any kind of software or frame generation crutch. Starting off with my current favorite casual racing title, Forza Horizon 5, at all maximum settings including ray-traced shadows, we see the G16 2024 pull off an impressive 81 FPS average with a 1% low of 74 FPS. It's not just playable, it's completely enjoyable. Turning on DLSS even on auto hovers me at around 90 to 100 FPS easily, even in crowded events. It's an amazing experience, given that OLED screen and Forza Horizon 5's naturally saturated vistas. I know the FPS is just a third of what the screen is fully capable of, but it's already a fully enjoyable experience at this state. Moving on over to the new addition to our testing lineup, Far Cry 6. This one is special since it has DXR, meaning I can use this game to test out the ray tracing performance of non-RTX GPUs. At all max settings with HD textures applied and DXR on, we get an average of 74 FPS with a 1% low of 65 FPS. Again, it's not just playable, but wholly enjoyable. There is no DLSS option with Far Cry 6 though, so if you are looking forward to playing this game on the G16 2024, you're going to have to use FSR. But yeah, with FSR on auto, I was still able to peak out at around 90 FPS. Great experience overall. Jumping into some high-speed F1 23, we see the G16 2024 start to get bogged down. At all max settings, we see an average of 57 FPS with a 1% low of 50 FPS. It's pretty stable, playable, but not fully great. I prefer my games to at least not go lower than 60 FPS, even on the 1% low. Good thing that F1 23 does support DLSS, and once turned on to performance mode, can run at a stable 85 FPS while still at max settings. I would recommend turning things a bit lower if you want to run it a bit faster though. And lastly, we've got the all-powerful Cyberpunk 2077. It's still our heavy benchmark staple, and with all max settings including ray tracing on overdrive and ray reconstruction on, we get an average of 55 FPS with a 1% low of 29 FPS. Yeah, this game brought the G16 2024 down to its knees, but then again, this doesn't have DLSS on. And with it set to performance mode, we're seeing stable, comfortable performance at 78 FPS. Yeah, I think it'll still take a laptop generation or two before we can see full-fat performance in this title. Overall, this is predictable performance from the G16 2024. We had no doubt that the pairing of the Intel Core Ultra 9, the RTX 4080 12GB, and that 240-watt brick would be monstrous in gaming, running almost everything at a pretty acceptable pace, even without the assistance of DLSS. Great job here, ROG. Moving on over to battery, this is something that I'm overall pretty happy with, but it just confuses me why ROG just didn't max everything out to a 99 Wh cell instead of the 90 Wh we have here on the G16 2024. Then again, I'm happy with the endurance of this laptop since on normal usage, I was able to squeeze out 8 hours and 33 minutes of use. That's just regular Chrome usage, watching a bit of content here and there, and a bit of writing. Then once cranked up to turbo mode, I was able to game for around 2 hours and 12 minutes in Forza Horizon 5 before it finally croaked. I mean, that's pretty impressive, especially coming from me, someone who daily drives a Zephyrus Duo 16, a laptop that manages to kill its own battery in just 40 minutes of heavy use. 2 hours and 12 minutes is like forever to me. Alright, thermals time, and I know a lot of you are waiting for this, seeing that this laptop line has significantly slimmed down compared to its previous generation. And we all know that once you slim down a laptop, it's inevitable that some cooling performance is sacrificed. On normal Chrome usage, I was able to measure 57 degrees Celsius on the CPU and 52 degrees Celsius on the GPU after 30 minutes. Then under full gaming load and turbo mode, I got 88 degrees Celsius on the CPU and 85 degrees Celsius on the GPU after 13 minutes. I mean, yeah, it runs hot, but these are pretty great temps for something so strong. The top plate and the screen does get really hot though, but mainly that's because of the exhaust vent situated right here in front of the laptop blowing onto the screen. It shouldn't be a problem in the long run, I'm not entirely sure, because I don't think it's hot enough to cause any real damage to the screen, but you know, time will tell. Be careful about this. And lastly, before we move on to the verdict, let's check out how the fan sounds. I tested it in 2 settings, one at full blast and one at idle. Yikes. Idle I can get. It's virtually silent. It even has an even more silent mode where the fans don't even spin up. But at full blast, there is clearly coil whine happening with the G16 2024. I've noticed it while gaming, while benchmarking, and even while exporting videos on it. It does seem to be a minor occurrence as I only notice it when the fans are just straight up on full blast. But it's there, and you're going to have to deal with it as well. It's a bit of a letdown for me. So, after all that, what do we think about the ROG Zephyrus G16? Well, coming from someone who's always been in love with the product line and has been looking forward year after year to test driving it for an extended period, I can confidently say that it's still my favorite over everything. Yes, there are big letdowns of its artificially shortened lifespan because of its soldered RAM, and the issue of a bleeding edge laptop in 2024 still having coil whine is kind of absurd for me. But realistically, looking at the bigger picture, those downsides are easily overshadowed by its exceptional build and incredible performance. Like with everything ROG, it doesn't come cheap. With this configuration coming in at 250,000 pesos or around 4,500 US dollars, it is very expensive. But you do get what you pay for. It might not be the huge step in the right direction that I'm expecting it to be, but it shows that ROG hasn't lost their way with the G16 product line, and development of it is in good hands. For now, I'm going to have to say goodbye to this unit as it goes back to ROG, but rest assured that I am still very much in love with this product line, and I'm still very much excited to see what new features will come in the next year's model. So that's my full review of the ROG Zephyrus G16 2024. Do you have any questions about it? Leave them down in a comment and I'll do my best to answer them. While you're there, give this video a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps out a lot. That's it. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.